I will go ahead and now officially welcome you to celebrate a huge milestone, the 5-year anniversary of the ENGin program. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm really blown away by the energy and size of our community. When I think back to ENGin's first days, it's hard to believe just how much we've grown. Back then, the community was just a few dozen high school students in the US and a few dozen high school students in Ukraine. We had no website, no trainings, no resources, no events, just one big spreadsheet and a small team trying to figure it all out. And while we were setting up the program, the world around us was just entering the COVID-19 pandemic. So crazy times. Lots has changed since then. The pandemic has subsided, but Russia's cruel war has made our work even more necessary. Our program is now tens of thousands of people of all ages. We offer so many more resources, opportunities, and support. Matches now take weeks or days instead of months to form. And every week, our team receives heartwarming reminders of why we do this work. Stories of barriers broken, confidence discovered, new jobs found, and lifelong friendships forged. But even though so much has changed, the heart of ENGin has not. From our very first days, we've been committed to connecting Ukrainians and English-speaking volunteers across borders for meaningful online conversation. We've always believed in the life-changing power of these connections and the importance of sharing Ukrainian stories worldwide, and in an ultimate goal of national transformation, of growing our little nonprofit to empower a critical mass of globally connected English-fluent Ukrainians to rebuild their country. I'm beyond honored to celebrate our work and our vision with all of you today, and to kick things off with our honored speaker, Kateryna Yushchenko. So a brief introduction, although I'm sure many of you are familiar with Pani Yushchenko and her wonderful work in Ukraine. So Ms. Yushchenko served as the First Lady of Ukraine from 2005 to 2010. She was born in the United States to Ukrainian immigrants who had been taken from Ukraine as slave laborers during World War II. After receiving a bachelor's in international economics at Georgetown and an MBA from the University of Chicago, Ms. Yushchenko served in various positions in the White House, Departments of State and Treasury, and the Joint Economic Committee of Congress. She then moved to Ukraine in 1991. She founded and worked at the US-Ukraine Foundation and also served as a country director for KPMG Barron's Group, providing technical advice in banking, capital markets, and fiscal and monetary reform to the Ukrainian government. As First Lady, she concentrated on projects to promote grassroots civic involvement in improving health, education, culture, and the arts. And now she works diligently to increase global support for Ukraine and its reconstruction. So with that, over to you, Pani Yushchenko.
I just want to say it's such a pleasure to see you all. I have run over, it is our eldest daughter's 45th birthday, and we're celebrating that today, but I felt it was so important to come here and to speak with you. And to say it was such a pleasure to meet Katya in February and to hear about ENGin. And it's really, really powerful idea of connecting Ukrainians with English-speaking volunteers. And I feel that you have accomplished so much because you're building the kind of relationships, the confidence in Ukrainians, and really you're building Ukraine's future one conversation at a time. I want to say that I didn't realize it was going to be 70% of the participants today would be volunteers and others who are speaking. And so I've prepared a few remarks, and I just hope that somehow we could stimulate a conversation amongst ourselves about what you have accomplished and what we could do in the future. And it's truly a pleasure to celebrate 5 years of ENGin with you. I want to congratulate Katya and the entire team, all the students and the volunteers who have made this venture so successful. 5 years ago, I understand how it is to build an organization. 5 years ago, it was just an idea. You were hoping that you could overcome distance, you could solve some of Ukraine's problems, but now you've reached 55,000 students, volunteers in over 100 countries. And that really has become much more than just a project or program. It's a movement. So I congratulate you on that. And I'm so glad to get to know you all. As Katya mentioned, I am part of the Ukrainian diaspora in the US. I came to Ukraine in 1991 because I strongly believed in the dream that Ukraine could be free, independent, thriving, that it could be part of the global economy, the global world. It was something that my parents and their parents before them had dreamed of, and I wanted to be a part of that rebuilding to help bring knowledge and experience from the West to Ukraine. I also wanted to learn from Ukrainians who are doing the hard work of transforming Ukraine into a nation that would make a difference in the world. The nation, as I mentioned, that my parents had dreamed of. You know, I have to say that when I came in 1991, I didn't necessarily expect it would take this long. I didn't expect all the setbacks. I was a little bit naive, idealistic. At the same time, I never doubted the strength, the intelligence, the creativity of Ukrainians. Because even in the hardest of times, in the 90s, before the 90s, I knew, and we all knew, that Ukraine would eventually win. We knew we would win, we just didn't know when. And that's the same thing now. We know we will win, we just don't know when. We also realized that we had to win, not just in the battlefield. We had to win in the classroom, in innovation, in economy, in culture, art, theater, medicine, science, and in the global conversation. I apologize. I have several stray dogs in the house, and if they bark, they'll make noise. You know, I want to say that it's very important. When I first came in 1991, I was a little bit dismayed at how few Ukrainians knew English. And that was natural. In Poland, they taught English to people. But in Ukraine, it was very, very hard to learn English, and very few people knew it. And I realized then that English is more than a language, it's a tool. Right now, English is the language of 60% of the internet. It's the working language of the EU, of NATO, of the UN, and almost every global business. If you study English, if you know English, you can study abroad, you can start a business, you can do international research, you can advocate for Ukraine on a global stage. There's so many doors that are open to you. And I think that in Ukraine, English has become not just a subject that children are learning, but it's become a survival skill. But even now, in 2021, only 18% of Ukrainians felt confident speaking English. But that number is rising. And I think that organizations like ENGin are a big reason why, and that's why I'm so proud of the work you're doing, because this knowledge of English opens doors to collaboration, to jobs, to friendships, to education, to opportunities on a global stage, to promoting Ukraine globally. And when you speak English, you can access the world, and the world can hear us, and you can become ambassadors to the world. And that's one of the things I want to say to all our Ukrainians. You are ambassadors to the world. You know, I've worked with a number of organizations. One organization I work with is Ukraine Global Scholars. And I've learned that and that's how Katya and I met, we talked about that. And when a student learns English, she can suddenly apply to Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, OKU. There's so many opportunities that open up. And these students have access to mentors, networks who can help them launch social enterprises, make presentations about Ukraine, about our innovations at international conferences. And what I'm very happy about is that these students don't just disappear once they learn. For example, 90% of UGS, Ukraine Global Scholar students, give back to Ukraine. They return home. They work in ministries. Some serve in the armed forces. They launch startups. And they give them, I would say the English language has given them wings and it's given them a compass. And now the most important thing we talk about in Ukraine is the need to rebuild. And because we know this war will end, and it's important for us to talk about what we need in order to rebuild. Of course, we have to rebuild our roads and our infrastructure, our bridges, our houses. But I think that the greatest asset we have is not physical infrastructure, it's our people and what they will be able to do to help rebuild our country. You know, we have always had, in the last 100 years, we've had one of the highest literacy rates in the world, over 99%. Our people are truly educated. I will tell you that one of the reasons when I came in 1991 that I stayed is because I met people who may work in construction, they may work in factories, they may be cleaning people, and yet they could talk about poetry, they could talk about opera, they could talk about history, you know, and I was truly amazed at the level of knowledge of our people. You know, Ukraine produces more tech talent per capita than almost any country in Europe. Ukrainian women are among the most educated around the world globally. 82% have a tertiary education, which is compared to 40% globally. But right now we have a big question before us, and that's how do we keep our talent in Ukraine? How do we keep our young people hopeful about Ukraine's future? How do we get them to channel their skills into rebuilding our country, staying here rather than going for maybe easier opportunities abroad? And that's why I feel your organization, this organization that we're all involved in, is so very important. You know, you meet students in different parts of the country. You meet young people, old people, people whether they're 14 or 40, and you give them confidence in English, but in an ability to express themselves and express their hopes for the future of our country. When I was little, my father used to constantly repeat to me, every language you know makes you one head higher than everyone else. And I strongly believe that. I believe that language builds bridges. You know, I wanted to just quickly share a story about a language program that existed in Ukraine a little while back. Somebody organized a program where they brought English speakers to tiny villages throughout Ukraine. And they were placed in villages, and they were supposed to spend 2 to 3 months working with the people, the children, the people. They were supposed to live in a home. And in one town, they assigned a young man from Pakistan who wanted to work in Ukraine. And the organizers told me that that the town said, we don't want him. He's a Muslim. We don't know him. We want somebody from Europe. We don't want him. And they said, fine, you don't want him, you won't get anyone. And they said, okay, fine, we'll take him. I was told that within a month, every single person, every single home in that village was vying for the opportunity to host him for dinner, to speak with him. They became so close, and he became family to them. And I thought about how this opportunity of speaking with each other opens doors and gets rid of prejudices and gets rid of a lack of knowledge about religion and race and culture, and how important these bridges of these bridges when you don't have language barriers are. You know, every conversation that ENGin organizes is a chance to connect, to learn, to grow. And those individual conversations really add up and they ripple outward, they inspire confidence. And this confidence leads to action, to study abroad, to apply for fellowships, to apply for opportunities to speak abroad, to pitch startups. And most importantly, I believe, is to tell Ukraine's story to the world. Because unfortunately, the world does not know our story. And I believe that when we invest in education in programs like ENGin and Ukraine Global Scholars and mentorship and networks, we're investing in Ukraine's future leaders, in our engineers, our artists, our politicians, our entrepreneurs, our public servants who will serve our country decades from now. And so ENGin has become a part of this ecosystem because it reaches people of all ages, school children, university students, professionals, older people, and gives them something that is priceless. And that's a voice, a way to be heard, and a way to convey a message. You know, I am deeply distressed that right now we live in a time of dangerous disinformation. I feel we're drowning in this disinformation, that Russia is trying to erase Ukrainian identity, history, and truth every day. And unfortunately, many people around the world believe these lies. But I feel that every day we together with ENGin, with our different organizations, can push back against that. You know, every conversation that we have where we could give our perspective, whether we're in America, whether we're in England, whether we're in a different country, whether in Ukraine, we can talk about our village, our family, our dreams, and we can be the resistance to the disinformation that's out there. And I think it's so important for us all right now to work to show that Ukraine is real, vibrant, determined. We will not give up. And that it's worth fighting for. We are fighting for the values that matter so much right now to Europe, to the United States, and to all the freedom fighters in many countries of the world that looked to America, to Europe for their dream. And I think it's important for us to fight for that now. And I want to say that language is not just important for communication, it's important for storytelling. And we have so many incredible stories to tell in Ukraine, so many stories that have yet been untold, so many movies to be made, so many novels to be written. And the world needs to hear our stories. And it's very important that you all, whether you're Ukrainian or not Ukrainian, based on what you get through our conversations, that you tell those stories. So I want to say that to all the students who are here, that I'm very proud of you and your determination to learn, to become a part of something bigger. And to all the volunteers, I want to truly thank you for taking your time, because what you're doing matters more than you could ever know. You're not just helping someone learn a language, you're helping someone build a nation. Somebody build something sovereign, successful, and truly the dream of my parents and their grandparents and so many generations before us. And so I want to just end by saying that we're writing the next chapter of Ukraine's history together. And I truly hope that it's one that's based on strength, dignity, and conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Pani Kateryna, I was a little nervous because I know you've just learned about ENGin recently, and I shouldn't have been nervous because you captured the soul of our program just so perfectly. Just so many parts of your speech, and I don't want to be repetitive, but I think especially the story about the man from Pakistan in the Ukrainian community. I mean, that is that, and just making that accessible to anyone, to any English speaker, to any Ukrainian that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I say it's breaking down barriers.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I did want to ask just a couple of questions. We asked members of our community to submit questions, and I'm just going to choose a couple. So I did want to start with, let's say, a more practical question. I think with the economic area, so very interested to hear a perspective. One of our volunteers said that he found out from his student that Ukraine has a flat income tax, right? Everyone's paying same tax rate, and that's different from in the U.S. where it's a progressive income tax system, right? No taxes if you're in the lowest bracket, and then higher and higher. And that progressive tax system in the U.S. dates back from the World War era, and so. Has there been any conversation, or do you think there is any merit in exploring a progressive income tax system for Ukraine as a mechanism to help fund the war now and maybe help build a middle class after the war?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. One I used to do a lot of work on, but haven't for a couple of decades. I actually worked in the 90s on the tax system here. Right now, obviously, the whole tax issue is very, very important. We are companies. I think the most important thing has always been compliance with taxes because that's always been difficult, but it's gotten much, much better as we have created a what do you call a digitalized system, and people are now paying taxes much, much more than they were able to get away with not paying in the past. And so many more companies and individuals are paying taxes now, and that's very important. We have I'm trying to think what we pay. There's an entrepreneur tax, and then there's a corporate tax. Individual taxes are not paid in the same way as they would be in the United States, where an individual necessarily pays the tax, files a tax. It's paid directly from their income. And so the company pays for them. So it's not like we file April 15th like they do in the US every year. Um, I think, and I'm not giving you a lot of knowledge of this because I'm going to have to study this a little bit more because I haven't dealt with this, is that they're trying to raise as much as possible without being an onerous system for the companies because the situation is very, very difficult right now. I think that the huge companies in the country are now paying a lot more taxes than they were in the past. I think it's getting better with every year. And I think the most important thing is that we are now moving toward the European system with every day a little bit closer, which will bring much more transparency into the system and uh, much more payment into the system. Let's just say, bottom line, I don't think there's as much corruption in taxes as there was in the past. In the current war, it's difficult, but that it's getting better and it'll get better when the war ends. I'm sorry I'm not being as academic as I should be in this question because I haven't worked in it in a while.
Thank you. It is a complex issue, so I know we can only touch on it, but some interesting things to consider. And now I'm gonna go over from the practical to the poetic. And we have a student volunteer who we're looking at Lena Kostenko's work together, and specifically the poem Kryla. It's something that our student really found meaningful and inspiring, and shared with her volunteer, who was also touched by it. And so he asked if you're a fan of Lena Kostenko's work, and if you're familiar with that, and maybe if you can talk a little bit about the role that she plays, and whether that poem or her work overall as a symbol of hope and strength for Ukraine.
Well, Lena Kostenko is one of the shining lights of our country now. We are truly blessed that she is still alive to be with us and to express so much from our history and so much of what our striving is today. She carries on a long tradition of people calling out for knowledge of Ukraine. I think she symbolizes the power of Ukrainian identity of the Ukrainian idea, of the importance of understanding our history. And I think that one of the most important things she represents is hope to is also to the Ukrainian women, that they can be the the strength behind Ukrainian identity and determination. She has really stood out. I think that very, very few nations can say that they have had such strong poetesses in the 21st century. And so she's amazing. In fact, tonight I was hoping to be at one of the plays, but there were so many different things going on that I couldn't choose. Marusia Churai is showing tonight in Kiev, in many theaters throughout Ukraine. The great thing is I think that she'll continue to inspire us still for many generations.
Wonderful. And I think we'll go ahead and send out the poem to those here who are not yet familiar with it. And in the meantime, I wanted to ask one more question. And you touched a little bit and you spoke about Ukraine Global Scholars, and obviously here we all know ENGin, but are there any other organizations that you're aware of, either based abroad or in Ukraine, that you think will be key players in the redevelopment of Ukraine?
Oh, those are the two that I have to say I love the most when it comes to education. And because I can't be involved with everything. So those are the two I feel strongly have done a lot for education. I know there's another organization I met at Ukraine Global Scholars called Sweet Law that also does educational opportunities. But then I work with many different organizations that do other things. For example, Superhumans and the Lviv organization that Unbroken, excuse me, Unbroken, that does a lot to help the soldiers who have been both, I would say, physically and psychologically harmed by war. My husband and I are traveling next week to a fundraiser to raise money for something called Titane, which is also helps. Uh, I think what has been absolutely amazing that I try to convey to my friends in America with whom I grew up, that they just don't understand that there are so many organizations. I have to say that what happened, every single one of us on February 24th of 22 wanted to go to the front. But older women like me, there's so many people, we couldn't just go to the front. And so we felt a little bit useless. And so what we did was we all tried to find what it is that we could do. Those who could write poetry wrote poetry. Those who could sing would sing and raise money. Half the people at our birthday party today are people who are raising money for the army through their singing or their poetry. Everybody was trying to do their thing. A good friend of mine started something where she made all the dried ingredients of borscht, and they feed something like 3,000 soldiers every week with the dried ingredients, where they just, with borscht or kasha or something else, the young man just basically put in hot water and they have a full meal. You have that. You have all the other organizations that are doing something you have UKU, which is helping teach our children at the Ukrainian Catholic University. You have the Academy of Leadership, which is taking children straight out of high school and giving them a year of training on how to be leaders. Every single person here is doing something. And a lot of my American friends from high school said, I don't know how we would have reacted if a war started in our country. Would we have had that kind of capacity for everyone to do something? And that's what I'm so proud of. There's so many different organizations. I personally, if I have some money, I donate to Poverne Živim, which is Save a Life, because they give direct aid to the front. I highly recommend that organization. But I will say, if you give me an issue you care about, if you care about animals, I will tell you about 10 different organizations that save homeless animals or zoo animals or something. If you tell me you care about children who have lost parents, my daughter started an organization that teaches coding skills to children who have lost a father. Every single person here is working on something, and I think that is why we will win. We will be victorious because none of us is just sitting around and waiting. We're all working to win.
Thank you. And I think I completely agree that this is Ukraine's strength. And I love that, we're celebrating ENGin, but we also get to spotlight all these other organizations because there's so much work to be done, right? And so we all fight on our little area that we can help with. And to everyone here, we will share links to some of these organizations and a follow-up in case you're interested in learning more. For now, I want to keep us generally on schedule. So we'll stop there with the question. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great rest of your night and take care.
Thank you. I wish you much success in your future, and thank you to everyone.
Thank you. All right. So that was a wonderful speech. I hope everyone was as touched as I was. And now we do have another very special segment for you. As you already know, ENGin is all about connection through conversation. And it all started with one very special Zoom conversation. Some of you have already heard this story. I was mentoring a Ukrainian teenager who had hoped to reach her academic potential by studying abroad. She was incredibly smart. She'd been studying English for years, and we had no issues communicating and writing. But when we met on Zoom for the first time, she stumbled over her words and had some trouble speaking with me. And I'm sure if you've heard the story, you may have wondered, is this a real story? Is this girl a fictional character? And if she's real, what happened to her? So today I thought it would be fun to find out. Hi, Olena. So in my public statements, I called this girl by the pseudonym Olena, but her real name is Olena. Alina is from Ternopil, Ukraine. And when I met her, she was a promising high school student with interests spanning from biology to piano to community service. And she has come such a long way since our first conversation. So today I'm very excited to welcome the inspiration behind ENGin. Olena, thank you so much for being with us.
That's an honor. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
Wonderful. So let's start maybe with that first Zoom call. I've told that story, I feel like dozens, if not hundreds of times over the past 5 years, at least as I remember it. I remember how impressed I was with your written English, and I actually went back and I looked at some of our old emails back from 2018 to confirm, and it was really good. I mean, it was just really, really great English. And then I remember being a little surprised when we finally did get on Zoom because all that confidence and clarity that I had gotten used to in your writing wasn't there. And it almost felt like I was talking to a different person. So I really wanted to ask you about your perspective on that first call. Do you remember it at all? And what was it like having, for you having to speak to me in English back then?
Yeah, for sure. So I do remember also really being excited to meet you for the first time because I've heard like that you were a great mentor before, before I even met you for the first time. So generally I was very excited to work with you, but I definitely also did not know what should I kind of prepare for the first meeting, like should I kind of write some sort of like a script for it? I was not exactly sure what to do before our first meeting, so I was a little intimidated. And also, as we spoke during our first meeting, I remember also being like, oh my God, is she gonna think that I'm a little, maybe like not as intelligent or something? Because, it was hard for me to express, I think my own also life experiences, to also an English, native English speaker. I think I never had that experience before. So generally, even if I had that grammar or vocabulary, I couldn't really immediately kind of start using it as we speak in the conversation. So that was definitely something I felt during our first meeting. And yeah, but you were very friendly, so I definitely kind of felt comforted by your questions and follow-up questions. And yeah, and later I think with more meetings we had, the easier it was for me to kind of talk to you.
That's really really interesting to hear, and I think that really what I'm hearing is that kind of the fear, it's less than less like not having the skills and more just not having had a chance to do it before. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about your experience learning English in Ukraine, since I believe you said you'd been studying it since you were very little in school, or I don't know if it was in your main school or privately. So can you just talk a little more about how you were learning English? What did you do? Did you know that speaking was hard for you? Did you have any opportunities to speak?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually was quite lucky in that sense that I was studying in school. So my mom was in that school, so it kind of was predetermined. But yeah, I was studying in Ternopil Classical Lyceum. So we had this like emphasis on foreign languages, meaning that we had like 1 extra hour of English and 1 extra hour of German. So it was like technically I had slightly more exposure to English language in general. And I also was very lucky with my English, like to have my English teacher. She was just such a great teacher, also very well-rounded. So she would also often kind of bring her own materials about arts, about like any other country that she wanted to talk about during a lesson. So it was great to have her as a teacher. And I think she contributed a lot to my vocabulary and grammar in general. But what I also noticed is that when I, for example, was participating in certain like events involving, foreigners, for example, I went to this Model UN camp, and there were Peace Corps volunteers who would like ask us questions about ourselves. And I remember also like I found it quite hard to keep up with them in the conversation. And so I definitely knew it was an issue for me to kind of try to actively recall words as I speak. And yeah, so I knew it was an issue, but because, I was living in Ukraine, I could kind of didn't feel it in other parts of my life. So I kind of started to work on it actively only when I was speaking with you.
Yes, and it's something I also remember that as our sessions went on, you lost that fear and it became a lot easier to get the ideas across. So it was almost like ENGin sessions before ENGin existed. So that's wonderful. And of course, right now your English is basically perfect. So tell us some more. You couldn't officially participate in ENGin because I hadn't started it yet. But beyond our sessions, how did you improve your English?
Yeah, well, I generally myself, even before we met, I was trying to kind of do kind of like more passive, like English learning by kind of reading books or listening to music, or also watching movies with subtitles. But that wasn't really what actually like made that biggest like change. So again, like talking to you was already so helpful. And after that, I also since I had a gap year after school, after I finished high school, and before I started college in the US, I also did some volunteering abroad. So where I taught music and arts in English to underprivileged students in Italy. And it was also a great experience. I was kind of pushed to not only kind of also, try to express myself in English, but also help other people to tell me something about them in it, because if they were Italians, I was just asked, it was kind of an interesting experience, but definitely also pushed me out of my comfort zone and kind of made me, I think, more of effective English speaker. And obviously immersion in English when I came to the US obviously was also the biggest it made the biggest difference also for me, because I also would find friends in college quite quickly. As as I went to the US, I found friends quite quickly, and they were really kind and giving me space to express myself. So there wasn't, like in a conversation normally, there wasn't as much rush, and if I couldn't find a word, they would kindly help me or just wait for me. Yeah, and they definitely also sometimes would enjoy listening to kind of my bloopers if I said something funny, or kind of not in a way that normally you would say. They would definitely also enjoy laughing at it. So that was a fun experience.
Well, I think that's really powerful. All forms of conversation, right, in different contexts, and I think that that is exactly what we're trying to do at ENGin, give people the opportunity to speak in real context with real people who maybe won't laugh at their bloopers. And we tell our volunteers, to be nice. I don't think they will do that. So maybe it's even better. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to since that gap year, your college experience, and what are you up to now, and what are your plans for the future?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was really lucky, to have you as a mentor, and I got into great college. I think, in addition to also meeting really good friends at Williams, I also had a very rigorous academic training. So I was interested in sciences before coming to the US, and I knew that I wanted to do some research. So as soon as I got to the US, and I realized how much, how many opportunities are there around me. And I really tried to make the most out of my experience at Williams. So I took extra courses, I kind of tried to, when I was not studying, I was trying to do some internships in research and joining different labs within college to get engaged with biological research more there. And with time, I also realized, with joining and having experience in different laboratories, I realized that I really find a lot of joy in biomedical research. So that's what I've been pursuing since junior year in college. And I did my senior thesis studying ovarian cancer, a specific type of ovarian cancer. And it was a very meaningful experience. I enjoyed working with my advisor. And yeah, I realized that I want to do more of that. So I have been engaged with biomedical research since. So after graduating in 2023, I have been working as a research associate, and now I also got promoted to a lab manager position in my lab. So I'm studying red blood cell development, but we do study that to understand also why, for example, hematological malignancies are happening in patients, for example, with various like leukemias and lymphomas, for example. So I've been studying that since, and yeah, so I hope in the future also to do more of that independently also. So I would like to pursue a PhD or MD PhD. So I would like to apply for those programs actually next year. And I'm excited to get more independent, and generally, yeah, I do try to get credentials and, to become a good, hopefully respectable scientist, to be able also then to contribute to education and academia in Ukraine. That's kind of my big hope, and I hope that in the future there is a time and space for me in Ukraine.
Very, very inspiring. And I know even now, over the past years, you've been committed to giving back as a volunteer, like many of the wonderful volunteers in our audience today. So can you tell me some of the some ways that you volunteered in giving back to the community?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm interested also in biomedical research, so I do also consider working in a medical setting, actually. So I've been trying to get engaged with volunteering in the US related to patient care and medicine. So I started with actually volunteering in a nursing home. I think the US has a growing elderly population, and a lot of people are like sometimes end up in nursing homes, and I was also volunteering in like a hospice care specifically. So those were the patients who were terminally ill with the illness, so I would provide them with comfort and kind of companionship. So I would try to kind of provide comfort for those patients, and it was a great experience for me. I did enjoy working with patients, and yeah, I also think, I generally always like to interact with my grandparents. So it was a great kind of way for me to kind of reconnect with that childhood myself, who really liked to talk to my grandpa and my grandma. So it was a very nice experience. And second, volunteering that I did in a medical setting was, it's actually what I'm doing right now. I'm volunteering in a hospital where I help nurses to kind of, with their everyday activities, basically do some restocking, kind of, bring samples down, up and back, basically. So kind of trying to get engaged directly with medical professionals. And I also try to provide comfort for patients when needed, because I work in a hospital. So that was, so in general, I was trying to also get engaged with the community around me. I'm not in Ukraine right now, but I still try to kind of connect with community here to see if I can help somehow as well, given my interest as well. And my second kind of focus of volunteering that I've been doing was also helping Ukrainians. And that's, I think, also very important for me personally to do that. As I mentioned, I grew up in Ukraine, and I think that education made a really big difference for me. And I did always, I also hope, since I was also part of Ukraine Global Scholars, I also really wanted to give back to that. And I was volunteering as a mentor for a few years, and then a senior mentor. So I kind of helped teenagers as myself to get access to the education that they were striving for. And and now I actually just recently started to also work with ENGin, and it was also just such a great experience. I think, again, reflecting on my progress in spoken English with Kateryna, I think it was such an important also part of my journey. And I'm currently also interviewing students and volunteers, so I get to see actually the ENGin kind of get to see how the ENGin population looks like. And it's been also so rewarding to see that actually ENGin is reaching those people who critically need it to improve their language, like English specifically, especially when I interview a person who's currently living in the US, but they can't really, get to befriend people, or, for example, get a job that they want given their credentials because of their, poor spoken English skills. So that's been really rewarding for me. And so I generally am so happy to be here today. And Kateryna, I'm just so impressed and proud to be part of this.
Thank you, Olena. Wow, this is, and I'm so proud of you and just how far you've come since we were meeting. And you were very impressive back then, and you're very, very impressive now. So thank you so much for visiting with us and sharing your story. And I'm so glad you're officially part of the ENGin community now as an interviewer. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Yep.
So as I mentioned, we recently celebrated, or I don't know, did I mention this? We recently celebrated 55,000 participants at ENGin. Doesn't that just blow your mind? 55,000 incredible learners from Ukraine and volunteers from all over the world. People of all different ages, religions, professions, socioeconomic backgrounds. Coders, poets, veterans, doctors, athletes, politicians, new moms, teachers, children. Each story is unique, and at the same time, all ENGin stories share some similar themes, which I think we've heard echoed in Olena's story just now: a passion for learning, a passion for giving back, a passion for growing and taking risks, and encountering the unfamiliar. And ENGin, still 5 years later, is the only place in the world where all of these dreamers and explorers can find life-changing conversation, connection, and growth without barriers. No high cost, no physical limitation. We are still one of a kind. Our category-defying approach combines language learning, cultural exploration, mentorship, and human connection for an unmatched program experience. We're not a language school or a social club or a professional mentorship program. We're all of these together, and the whole is so much more than the sum of the parts. And by reaching tens of thousands of people, we're working towards empowering an entire generation and ensuring Ukraine's social progress and economic growth. And we could not do any of this without your support. ENGin is an independent nonprofit funded almost entirely by our volunteers. So every year, we need to raise the funds to cover the program costs to do another year of ENGin. So today marks not only our birthday celebration, but also the launch of our annual fundraising campaign. I would love to ask for your support today to ensure that ENGin continues to stay open and do this incredible work. And I have a very exciting announcement. I actually just recently found out every donation made to ENGin this year, starting now, will be fully matched, doubling your impact. I'm really thrilled about how much we can do together with this opportunity. So if you can make a donation, we'd be very grateful for your support. Emily is dropping a link in the chat now, and we're also going to have a QR code up, possibly, if our tech cooperates, if you would like to scan it and donate from your mobile phone. There we go. And we do accept, everything from credit cards to PayPal to checks, stocks, crypto. It's all at that link. And we are also grateful to our wonderful volunteers who help connect us to corporate funding opportunities at their family members' employers, to volunteers who organize online or in-person fundraisers in their communities, and to those who recommend us to foundations they know. This is really ENGin's lifeblood. All of the wonderful things that you've been hearing about, they are only possible with the financial support from our volunteer community. So we're really, really grateful for your leadership and support in fundraising so that we can continue doing this work together. If anyone has any questions about our budget, fundraising, donations, I invite you to contact me directly at kateryna@enginprogram.org. Emily will put that in the chat because I don't want to take a ton of time now to talk about it, but I am very, very happy to answer all your questions and work with you to help get you information and to help fund ENGin because that is that's sort of the foundation of everything. So now you all have spent a lot of time listening, and I want to give you a chance to do some talking. I mentioned already, ENGin is all about connecting through conversation. So I'd like to invite everyone into little breakout rooms for a dose of connection. In your breakout, you might meet other volunteers or students, or even ENGin team members. So make sure to share your video and take yourself off of mute once you're in the rooms. We'll have 3 or 4 people, and we'll put up a couple prompts in the chat, just introducing yourselves, sharing why you joined ENGin and what you've learned and enjoyed about it. And we'll have 10 minutes. Please be mindful of time so everyone gets a chance to say hello. And then we will see you back here in 10 minutes. Well, I hope you have all enjoyed the chance to chat with each other, and you had a chance to meet someone new. If you'd like, we would love to hear from you in the chat, some highlights from your conversation, anything interesting that you learned. I know, Pat, I wish we had more time, just with everything else going on in this session. I just want to be respectful of everyone's time, but we are definitely planning more mixed events. This is one of our big things that we're about to announce very soon, is we're going to do more events where it's all just, no speakers, just connecting with each other, students and volunteers. So stay tuned if you enjoy. John, I see you brought a balloon. This is for celebrating our birthday. If so, that's cute. Wonderful. Well, since the ENGin experience is usually one-on-one with our buddies, I think it's rare and special to get together as a group and sort of remember that all of these connections weave a much larger web, a global movement of people who care about Ukraine and who want to grow in their understanding of themselves and one another through English language conversation. So I'm very inspired to see us come together and connect. And I want to move on now to our last segment, our student panel, where I want to highlight a few ENGin stories to all of us here, for students who will share how the time with their ENGin volunteers impacted their lives. So please join me in welcoming Anastasiia, Aleksandr, Yuliia, and Oleh. So let's just get started with some introductions. Can each of you share your name, where you're from, what you do for work, and your goals and dreams for the future? And let's start with you, Oleh.
Hello, nice to see you today. And my name is Aleksandr. I'm from the city of Pustomyty, Lviv region of Ukraine. I'm the mayor of my hometown of Pustomete, and now in Ukraine we have only one goal and dream for everyone. It's victory in the war and peace for Ukraine, and it's impossible to achieve this without the world community, and to communicate with world is the best with English, and ENGin is the best program who can be for improving English. So nice to see you all volunteers, all mentors. I see my mentor, beautiful mentor, Jim. Hi, nice to see you, and thank you for today's our very, very interesting meeting. And thank you very much, all mentors.
Wonderful. Yuliia, let's go to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Yuliia. I am from Vinnytsia region, but currently I live in Kyiv, and here I work in social and charitable projects as the fundraiser and grant management specialist. I work with projects which help elderly people in Ukraine, for example, and I also run book club for elderly people in Kyiv who also learning Ukrainian because they have been speaking Russian mainly. And what my dream is to continue to work with projects, organization, and people which make impact and bring value in their daily job, daily work. And also after starting participation in ENGin program, I really plan to apply for some master degree in foreign university, and then I would it is important for me to gain knowledges here in Ukraine in my job and to continue making more quality work here.
Thank you, Yuliia. Aleksandr, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. How's it going? Hello, all. I'm Aleksandr, Sasha for short. I'm from Kateryna. It's Dnipro region. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for invitation. Sorry for my little nerd because it's the first my experience as a speaker, as a big auditory. I see it's more than 100 persons. Sorry for a little mistake in pronunciation, but I'm really happy. I just wanted to say thanks, ENGin, thanks, Kateryna, for these great projects, because you see, it's really help people like me, simple Ukrainian, who want to improve speaking language is broken. Some objection in English, yeah, it's open the whole world because majority people speak in English. It's very help. It's very help in simple life. For example, my story. Yeah, before I was shop assistant and work in Kyivstar. Ukrainian people know it is a telecommunication shop. But now I'm a member of a great team of ZO. It's international organization, humanitarian organization who help people in Kherson region. It's deoccupied territory, and we help some materials. For example, I was a coordinator of winterizations. We helped people to buy some solid fuel for their householding. It's very helpful people. You see, you help us, we help all people. We are a big community. It's very exciting. I don't know, perfect. And I know much more, many words, but I can and really, really thank you. And thank you, Emily, for invitation, and Kateryna for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I was thinking if your child comes to interrupt again, you can threaten to sign him up for ENGin. So
yeah, of course, yes.
All right, so now we have Anastasiia, over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Anastasiia, and originally I'm from Zaporizhia, Ukraine. Thank you for this invitation, and big thank you for Emily who led me to this point, because sometimes I was struggling with orientation here. Currently I'm working as an accountant in Toyota Material Handling Europe in Baltic office, and what about dreams? Of course, to live in peaceful and thriving Ukraine.
Wonderful. I'd love to hear from all of you what motivated you to join ENGin, how you came here. So, were you looking for something like this, or you heard from someone you know? So let's go in the same order, starting with Oleh. What brought you to ENGin?
Maybe I'll try to start this part. I enjoyed ENGin to improve my English speaking because before participating in the program, I felt like a dog. I understood everything, but I couldn't say anything. And in the 7 months of participating in the program, everything changed dramatically. Now I doesn't avoid talking to foreigners and feel very comfortable communicating with them and enjoying it. And participating in ENGin is important not only for me personally, but also for my Pustometry community, which I lead. And knowledge of English with the help of ENGin allows my community to participate in different international events, communicate with various foreign partners, and attract important international projects for the development of my community. So it's very, very good and big program.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad you found us, and I think you're right. It's an impact not just for you, but the community you represent as mayor. So, thank you for sharing that. Yuliia, how did you join ENGin?
Yeah, I've heard about ENGin from one girl who studied English at the same English school as I did. And I wanted to improve my English, and which is important to reduce the language barrier and the fear of speaking in general in English. And at the same time, I'm part of the Global Shapers community from World Economic Forum, where is young people from all over the world, and the main language to connect here there is English. So I assumed that communicating with ENGin volunteer would help me to feel more comfortable, more confident in cross-cultural community, to express my thoughts, ideas, and especially to say something clearly and understandable about Ukraine, about our situation, needs, projects, and to promote our country in a global level.
Wow, that's very, very impressive. Aleksandr, what motivated you to join ENGin?
It's a simple story. My English tutor recommended me to participate in this project, yeah, for improving my English skill, because I learn grammatic, yes, some lexics in pronunciation, but she said me you should hear to natural English, yeah, and I joined to this program. And I recommended all my friends and my family and to my friends to join to your project. Maybe they hear
Wonderful.
me from
Thank you.
Montreal.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think with what's common among many of our students, most, maybe all of them, is that people are studying English in other ways, and still there's this barrier that Oleh referred to, right? You understand, but you can't speak. And so this is exactly why ENGin was founded, to help remove that fear of speaking. And it's very hard to do that, outside of real conversations with real people. Anastasiia, what was your reason for joining?
Yeah, my ENGin journey was super spontaneous because I discovered this program during searching LinkedIn, and I just like, okay, some post about ENGin and some sources to learn English, and I started to read more about ENGin. And firstly, I thought that it could not be real because it's it's sound too good to be real. And honestly, I called my younger sister and invited with me because I was a little bit scared to join the ENGin like by my own and alone. That's why we started this way together, and yeah, we both receive a great experience there.
Oh, that's wonderful. You know, I do hear that from Ukrainian students a lot. Like, wait, this is too good to be true. Like, what's the trick? You know, is this something religious? Are you going to try to convert me? Is this something
Yeah.
political? You know, I was like, no, we really just want to help you speak English better. So, I'm glad you gave us a try. And I want to ask all of you to share a little bit about your volunteer and what your sessions look like. You know, what you guys do each week. Give us a little window into what your experience has been like. Go ahead, Oleh.
Thank you. Uh, I always feel uplifted and energized after talking with my wonderful mentor and volunteer Jim from United States of America. We met Jim through ENGin and became friends right away. And during our conversation with Jim, we talk about what has changed on our lives over the past week, what is the news in Ukraine, in United States of America, and we also discuss interesting materials prepared by Jim in the form of articles, videos, parts of books, and Jim, as I think many volunteers are worried about the events in Ukraine, personally helps Ukrainians with funds to provide the necessary means to protect Ukraine. And we talk a lot about American-Ukrainian relations, which are difficult at the moment, but we always find common ground, even so we live in different parts of the world.
Wonderful. Yuliia, tell us about your sessions with your volunteer.
Yeah, I have really great volunteer, Nancy, and I'm happy to see her today with us on this event. So Nancy is a really great, supportive, and fascinating person. She lives in the USA and works as a criminal lawyer. And at the same time, she loves languages, and she currently herself learning Spanish, and she's really passionate about literature. And this is the same thing that we're both passionate about, but Nancy also writes poetry. I recently found out, and this is really great. And this is really, I think, a small part of the all of the things that can describe her. And I'm truly happy to have Nancy as my volunteer. And thanks to the fact that she studies Spanish, she can really understand some frustration with learning a language, and it really helps us in our sessions. And there looks like she asks, "How am I doing?" And it kind of feel like it has therapeutic effect. You can share some troubles or things that made me happy recently. Nancy also gives me different tasks and videos for homework, so we can discuss it in our sessions. Recently, we started reading the same book together, and in English, and we discuss it in our sessions together. What else? We often discuss situation in Ukraine and in the United States, exchange some cultural differences. For example, recently we discussed Easter bread, pisankas, and other. And it is valuable for both of us to learn firsthand what's going on in our countries and what atmosphere there. And this is especially important, I think, in fast changing world and where there is a lot of manipulation and disinformation and a lot of news. And this is really important to know someone who knows what's going on really and can share information inside, from inside.
Wonderful. So many different activities. I think I want to meet with Nancy. That sounds like fun. Aleksandr, how about you?
My volunteer is Tanya. She's from Chicago, US. Yeah, she's a very interesting person. She works in local government, it's the federal government. I don't remember, maybe in Chicago. And she tells me many interesting stories about local life because you see, I'm really interested. So domestic life and some specific maybe words, some specific people. It's very interesting because other cultures, other continents, it's very interesting to talk. Yeah, to talk with this person. We converse many routine topics, simple as a friend. Yeah, it's like relax. You in like some other reality and simple relax. She asked me some information about Ukraine, about situation, and I answer and ask her. Yeah, it's cool. You see, because we live so far, yeah, one each other, but we can communicate, and it's a great opportunity for me, for people. It's amazing.
That's so wonderful, and I think it echoes what Yuliia said about being a little therapeutic, right? To just connect and just just that experience of relax and and talk. What about you, Anastasiia?
Today, I'm so lucky and I'm proud that my volunteer is like young professional junior from United States, and our sessions every time really relaxed, friendly, and full of real life conversation. We are discussing everything from movies to like news to daily life. Yeah, and this is really that practice that I need, how to discuss, how to talk about daily life, and yeah, that's what I search.
Oh my gosh, so amazing. Just hearing the four of you really, and I think encapsulates, right, the essence of ENGin. There's the English improvement, which we talked about, and losing that fear of speaking. There's intercultural exchange and learning about life in a different country. And there's like the friendship and connection. And it's isn't it wonderful that in 1 hour a week we can get all of that? Thank you all for sharing your experiences today, and also sharing the impact that ENGin has had on you. I'm really inspired by all of your stories. Дуже дякую, що ви прийшли на нашу панель і поділилися вашими історіями. And that brings us to the end of our event today. And I want to thank everyone who participated, not just our wonderful panel, but our prior speakers, all of our guests, all of you for being part of our program. We have a very big vision for the future. We want to use the power of conversation to connect 1 million Ukrainians with English speakers around the world and really build a countrywide foundation of English fluency to open doors to academic and professional opportunities, and really taken together have 1 million Ukrainians who are catalyzing Ukraine's economic and social development. So with every single session that you attend with your buddy, with every time you spread the word about ENGin, you are building this future with us. So thank you so much for believing in us, for standing with Ukraine, for helping us illustrate that regular people can come together and have the power to create lasting change. And again, if you can support us financially, that's the foundation of everything. We're kicking off our annual fundraising campaign today. We're sharing the link again. Please do support us at whatever level you can. And remember, all of your donations, the impact will be doubled because everything is being matched. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you again. Is there any questions or anything that we didn't get to? Feel free to email me or Emily, and we'd love to hear from you. But as for today, that is a wrap. Thank you for coming to our event. Have a great rest of your day.